Getting ready to send the block for oversizing the cylinders and put some oversized piston in there. Need to make a tool. This tool is to locate. The tool is gonna set with these two holes like that to locate the little hose there. This one has been slack, but we made the tool prior to disassemble it. So like this one is rigid, it's fixed. So the idea is needs to have two holes here with countersink bolts. The cone is going to locate the tool, so I screw that one first, then the second one. I just tied it by hand all the way like that, and then the second one. Okay, here two other countersink bolts. These bolts are made to hold the thing that's going down, and this is where I made a groove to locate the hose. It's not very aesthetic, but it really locates the hose when you put it in there. So this is going to be used to put them back at the right place, so the oil is going to shoot at the right place under the pistons. So right now, removing all of those, I'm going to set them in the right order so I know exactly where they go to put them back. I don't think it's going to make a big difference to swap them, but I like to put things where they belong. So this is what I'm doing right now. So this is what the little hose look like. You can see the diameter gets smaller here, so it shoots, it accelerates the oil as it gets out. These bolts here are very special. There's no O-ring or nothing. You can see there's another diameter. Here, the diameter is a fit in that hole. It might leak a bit, but it doesn't really matter. There's some little holes around on this diameter here, and the oil gets in there by the hole. So we want to keep those in a safe place, and we're gonna install them later on. Oh, that's what I'm trying to get rid of, this little hair. Okay, so they all line up in the right order. And now if we look at the engine, we can see here that the surface is machined, so the bottom part of the, let's call it the ring or the puck at the base of the hose, it's got a, it's not as good as a rubber, but it kind of seals, since it's a very good surface to seal on those. So that has been removed. Now I need to remove these nozzles here. There's two of those, one on each side. These nozzles are used to inject the sealing compound here in the groove that goes all around up to the crank seal on both hands for one side, and the other side is the same thing. So I'm going to try to remove them with gently with a pry bar like that. So that's gonna go garbage. The other one, there's no place to pry, so I'm gonna need to take a little punch and just punch it straight up from outside of the engine block. This is the sensor for the crank shaft position sensor. On the crank there's a big gear. This is the one that checks where is the crank in his rotation. It checks mostly every degree, maybe not every degree, but very close to it. There's a lot of teeth on that gear, so we need to remove all the sensors prior to send the block. The bearing here, when you install them, you see here there's a notch in the bearing, and there's a notch also on the block. So the notch goes with the notch, and this is the upper part. Now it's upside down, but this is the upper part of the engine block, where is the split of the crankshaft, and you can see the grooves and the holes are locating on that upper part there. So when we're gonna reassemble it, we gotta make sure that this is what we're doing. Normally you got a hole here, you don't see very well, this hole leads to nothing, but here that hole leads to somewhere. I'll try to show you. From that direction you can see it's going deep down inside. This is an oil passage, so this is a way for the oil pump to bring oil to the crank main bearings. Okay, so this is mainly what's left to do. This bolt here also has got to be removed. This is the bolt for one of the timing chain. I think it's the main timing chain, the guide of it. So that's got to be removed. Then yeah, this and that bolt. Then we're gonna rotate it, and we're gonna check all around to make sure we don't forget anything. I know there's the knock sensor that's gonna be removed as well, but they're on that side. I'm gonna label them, check carefully what position they're in, and then we're gonna remove them. This is the crankshaft position sensor. You can see there's some metal on it, so you can wipe it off because it is like a magnet, so it's gonna attract all of the little piece of metal to it. Okay, to remove it, it was easier to remove that bolt first, and then from inside you push gently with one hand and gently you rock it. It's just a matter of passing the O-ring, so this is what it is. So basically nothing very special, just wipe off the excess of metal around it. It serves a purpose to make sure as it works, it serves a purpose to grabbing some of the metal that could be free in the engine, but as you can tell, there was not much. This one here, in the middle of the crankshaft and the engine block, you can see there is some spacers around. This one is a special bearing because it's the one that locates the crankshaft, so we cannot shift from side to side. So if you need a little play on that. I don't have the spec at hand, but this is something that needs to be checked also. But this is a special one. That's the only one that has something to locate it side to side. And if you look on the side here, you can see there is like a special kind of groove. You can see here. It's different than if you look at all the others. So it is the only one that has this, and it's only on the upper half. The lower half of it doesn't have that. So this is why here you can see there's like a chamfer on it to make sure it's not gonna bang it or something. So to remove those, you just swing it from side to side gentle. It's gonna raise by itself because you don't want to scratch. If you try to make a turn, it's dangerous that the sharp edge here might scratch the surface, and we want to keep it clean. So we will now remove the two knock sensors, this one and this one, as well as this bracket here. The knock sensor, I'm gonna put a tape on it and write on the tape. I got white tape, so I'm gonna write on it R for rear, and this one is front because it's on the pulley side. So, and it's I'm gonna replace them in the same angle, which is about 45 degrees here. This one I'm not facing it, but I will check on the video to make sure I put the same thing. In order to order the right crankshaft bearing, main bearings, you need to check the letters here. So this one is BBB, it's all B. It is just beside on the exhaust side, it is just beside this coolant big hose that was going down in between the turbos. So this is where you can get the information for that. So you want to write that down, as well as some codes on the crankshaft. On the crankshaft, on the pulley side, you got letters and numbers. The numbers are for the main bearings, and the letter are for the connecting rod bearings. The main bearings are different on the upside than they are on the downside. So the one on the upside relates to the letter you have engraved on your block, like I showed earlier. So the first letter would be the first cylinder, which would be the pulley side. So on the upper side, you have three different categories possible. You have letter A, B, or C. A would be yellow, B would be green, and C would be red. This is how they've been ranked at BMWs. And then if you go on the lower half of the block, which is the lower crankcase, you would have numbers which are written on your crankshaft. Again, you got three categories. The number 1 would be yellow, number 2 would be green, and number 3 would be red. So this is how you identify the fit, the required main bearings for the right fit for your engine. Combinations yellow and red cannot be fitted on the same journal, crankshaft journal. If you have such an issue, then you have to look more specific to your situation. For the connecting rod bearings, you look on the crankshaft on the pulley side. They're written there. The combination of letters R and B. The first letter would be the first cylinder on the pulley side. So letter R as Robert would be the upside, would be the yellow color. The bearing cap side would be red, so it's always yellow and red going together. If you got the letter B as Ben, then you would have the connecting rod bearing would be violet, and the downside on the cap side would be blue. So violet and blue always go together. Good. Nope. This bolt here is, we didn't touch it. It's a bolt that connects to the coolant grooves inside, so it's probably to install a block heater. So I'm gonna leave it there. There's no need to remove that. I don't want to have to change the seal on that. It's part of the block, so it's gonna stay on. So in order to get ready, we send the pistons and the engine for a rework. So what we need to send the piston without the ring. So in order to do that, and in order to make sure that I'm sending the piston back with the right, the piston goes back with the right ring, because they're gonna fit the pistons with each cylinder. So we need to take out the things that goes with it. So there's this ring. This is a ring to lock on the pin within the piston once you slide it inside the connecting rod. So we take the pin out. We're also gonna have to measure these pins and check the diameter with the connecting rod, because we're intending to keep the connecting rods. So making sure that the bushing in the connecting rod is still good. So there's this ring here. I'm gonna have to take it out with a small screwdriver inside the hole here. Just pop it out and just make sure there's not gonna be any stuff that's gonna stay in between the ring and the groove. So first off, let's take the ring out. So in order to do so, we're gonna also find a way to figure out which ring goes where, and which one is the one that goes on the top. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the tool to expand the ring. So that is the first one. So first one is going to be one dot. I'm going to put one dot on the top. Like that. And then we're going to do the second one. So the two first rings are basically compression rings. The third ring is a set of 3 rings that is for oil purposes. So this one is darker. Oh, it's written top on it. Let me try to show you this. So it's written top, so that makes our life easier. The other one should be written as well. Yep. Hard to see, but you can see it's written top about here. So the light one goes on top, the dark one goes underneath, and then the compression rings. These are going to be a bit more tricky to remove. That might need a little flat screwdriver. Yeah, because it's stuck in one piece. in the end. So I'm gonna go get a screwdriver. Okay, so the idea when we take the rings out is we gotta go easy because we don't wanna, because the ring is very hard. It's made of steel and it's kind of sharp. We don't want to scratch the outside of the piston, so that's why we go easy with that. So the little ring here, these one are less of a rigid ring. The idea of these rings is they work in with the middle one, which is like a zigzag. Okay, so this one goes on top. This one I don't think there's going to be something written on it. Let me try to see. Yeah, so this one doesn't have nothing written on it, so we're gonna make a mark, just one dot on it. We know it's the oil ring, so it's the first one of the oil ring. Then it's up to the zigzag, or we can go directly with the one at the bottom. The zigzag is gonna work easy if we go by itself. Oh, they make it easy. They make it orange color. So this is where the split is, I guess, but still we need to take this one because normally there's like a lock, so we need to take this one first, the one at the bottom. So this is the top of the second one, so we're going to put 2 dots. Like that. And then goes the oil one itself. This one is kind of easy, but you don't want to you don't want to break it, so you go easy. Okay. So this one is going to be harder to put a mark on, but I think if we put some black on the orange, it should do it. So I just put black on top of the 2 grooves here. If you look underneath, there is a bit. So anyways, they're gonna be set in the right way. This one is a bit hard to see, but here, if you look on the top, it's very hard to see with the camera, but the thing is, on top here you got like a stopper. If you look from the side, yeah, you can see a bit. So when you put the other 2 rings that were on top and underneath, they have like a stop at the end. So this is why you have to put this one first and take it out. Putting it in first and taking it out last, because there's like a lock that goes behind the 2 others that we take out for the oil ring. So now the idea is we just assemble these in the right order that they are, which means that The one at the bottom is the one that goes at the bottom. We put also the two other on top. So they're in the right, the sandwich is in the right order. I took some envelopes, cut them in half. So I'm just gonna slide this in. So we got a system to know which one goes where. And then we're gonna name this one number 1. Doesn't have to be doesn't have to be cylinder number 1. It's just so that we know that one goes with one that goes with one. So here we're gonna write a big number 1 on the top. We're gonna write it also at the bottom in case the machine shop is losing it. And then on the box we're gonna write a big one. This is the box that the piston were in. So now we know that one goes with one, that goes with one. So the only thing here left to be removed is this O-ring here. The clip that was holding the piston in place. Yeah, my screwdriver is not big enough for that. It's like too big. Gonna need to find like a smaller thing to go in there and open it without destroying the piston. You can see there is a arrow here. That arrow is gonna be used to tell us which direction to install the piston. Either the arrow pointing the crankshaft pulley, which I think it is, but I'm gonna confirm that later on, or it's gonna point toward the transmission side, which I doubt. So we put the ring in the box, put the pin in the box, and this C-clip for the pin. Then we're gonna need also to just remove this last pin circlip that holds the pin on one hand. That's the only thing left to be done here. So I figured out, I think, a way to do that. I got myself not long ago a set of these little kind of tool with pins. Never needed that in the past, but I think it was voice telling me that it could be useful to have something like that. So I think the best thing first would be to rotate it. First would be to rotate the ring. What else would be to success. Wear glasses, I guess. So the ring is fine, no damage. I think it's pretty straight, maybe just a bit twisted, but as we're gonna put it back in, it's gonna be just right. It's pretty good. You check it on the flat surface and you kind of try to push it to see if it's kind of straight. I think it's not so bad. So this is it. Pistons are now ready to go for as long as with the engine block for oversize. I'm gonna do the same thing with the remaining pistons. Okay, it's not ideal, but In order to get the lower half of the block ready, need to store the crankshaft for a few minutes standing up like that by the time I'm setting something else to hold it, because the lower half gotta go with the engine block for the rebuild. Okay, so the idea was to put wood blocks, but sometimes the wood blocks obviously are not the same length, so you have like to take them and try to slide them in and out. You try to get the same feel of every single one of them. And if in need of shim, you drink beer and you use the cardboard or paper until you get the same kind of feeling. Then you put some little triangle piece both sides to prevent it from rolling. That's the best way to store it. That's it. Okay, so time to get this part ready. So just a matter of removing the main bearing on the lower half. Same thing, swing it from side to side. It's not working good with just one hand, but this is how we do it, just like we did with the other one. And so on. So we remove them all. Then I'm gonna need to remove the bolts here. The one that I screw back just for getting 90 where they were going back. Then I'm gonna take away the old sealing. To do so, we gotta go easy. It's a razor blade. You guys know that too, I'm pretty sure. So the idea is to go easy. The idea is to make the surface flat. It's not to make it shiny or beautiful. It is to make it flat. It has to be very straight. The distance between the higher point of the surface and the lower point, that's what's matter. It has to be very tight. So in order for every surfaces we clean, this is what has to be done. I see sometimes people concerned about the shiny of it. That's not really important. It's really just to make it flat. The angle of the blade is important. Sometimes it's good to gently sand it with a sandpaper. So I'll try to show you. So this is how we do it. We go slowly. Now I see it's scratching, so I'm gonna replace this blade. I got others, so since I'm gonna have to do the entire engine, in order to do so, you just like slide it off, then you just pull it off. I like to put tape on the blade side before putting it in the garbage to make sure it's not gonna injure anybody. So then the new blade comes with his own protection, paperboard here. So we just gently take it out. Then just slide it back in. Okay, so it's just a matter of going easy with it. The blade is much harder than the aluminum, obviously, so that's something that's got to be taken care of, taken into consideration, I mean. Sometimes when we arrive in corners like that, the blade tends to turn, and then it wants to hit that surface, so gotta be careful for that. Here also there is like a little notch, and the blade tends to roll over and bang on it, so gotta be careful. This is getting hard to do it like that, so it's going to be better to turn the part or run around it to be in a better position to do it. So you got the idea. And if it's start to making scratch, then it's a matter of putting like a sandpaper on a surface. I will not do it on that one obviously, but just to show you. And then you just like sand it slowly like that, just a little, to remove all the possible notch that might be on the blade. And the blade was going to be good to keep running for a certain period of time. It should be good enough to make most of the surfaces of that block and the other side of the block, and I should probably be able to do the entire engine with just one blade. The idea is to make it flat, because the problem is if there is a big gap and a short length, big gap in height, it's going to be impossible for, well, this is when is a liquid gasket might do it, but when it's like the head gasket can cover difference in thickness, but over a certain length. So that's why we got to be careful to keep the surface flat, because obviously if you got like a, I don't know, 1/10 of an inch of a shift in a very short distance, it's harder to cover for the gasket than if it's a 1/10 difference from here to all the way on the other end of the block. And the force used is so that if it try to stop, it's gonna stop my hand. You're not trying to go too hard with that. Here around the nozzle feels like there's a little burr, so gently with the blade I'm trying to remove it, because it's a burr on the edge, probably when we took it out, the nozzle. And if it doesn't go away, gently with the blade, because we don't want to dent the blade. If it doesn't go away, then it's going to be a matter of taking like a little sandpaper or file, but being careful not to make round. This is why I'd rather use the rigid scraper. If you go slowly, you feel it when it wants to bite on the aluminum. This is obviously turned upside down, so you can see the half that are upside down. I need to remove also these two pins here, locating pins. So that's going to be removed so that the lower surface will be flat. Prior to use the vice grip on pins, engine pins, of course you want to brush the teeth with a steel brush to remove as much dirt as possible, because you wanna try to avoid scratching the pins outside surface. For I mean, they might get scratched with the teeth of the vice grip, but you want to help yourself and not because of the dirt. If you have a bit of burr that happen when you remove the pins with the vice grip, you take a smooth file and gently smooth it off. You don't want to take it all out, you just want to take out what's over the surface. The pin's still going to be good, just smoothly. You go round, you file it round like that with your file, you turn it round. So it's a bit harder to see, but you can tell it's still have notch, but it's inside now. There's no more notch underneath, kind of smooth. And if it is a bit out of round, you don't stress with that, because when you're gonna hammer it down gentle with the hammer, it's all gonna take back its space, and the bolt also is gonna go within, and it's gonna help. For some of them there's bolt inside, some of them there are not, but the hole is kind of a tight fit in those, so it's all gonna fall back into place.